One of the most profound faith questions there is, according to Jesuit priest James Martin, is, what do you want? What is the deepest desire of your heart and spirit? This can be a tricky question to answer. Consumer capitalism tells us we want a new iPhone, or a custom kitchen, or at least a larger bank balance than our peers. Our egos tell us we want to be important, to be taken seriously, to have other people's respect and admiration. Well-meaning people may have told us not to want anything. Our desires and needs don't matter. We should sacrifice everything for the sake of others. But Father Martin, building on centuries of wisdom from the Jesuits, writes that desire is a key way that God's voice is heard in our lives. And ultimately, our deepest desire, planted within us, is our desire for God. I find that to be helpful when trying to figure out whether a desire is surface level or deeper, healthy and holy. Surface level desires may take us in many directions, but they guide us away from God. The deep desires of our heart and spirit always lead us to God. So what do you want? This leader of the synagogue thinks he knows what he wants. When I read this story, he seemed familiar. I kept thinking, I've met someone like him. And then I remembered that guy at the Charlotte airport. You might recall that I came home from our vacation to Spain last May really sick with some kind of non-COVID flu-like virus. When we flew home, my gut was so upset that I hadn't eaten in about 4 days. The flight from Madrid to Charlotte completely wiped me out. It's a long walk from the gate to immigration, and I was moving very slowly. Melville was watching me anxiously in case I fell and he needed to catch me. We finally got to immigration, and there was this guy. I don't think he was an immigration official. He looked like an airport employee assigned to crowd control. He saw us, Melville worried, me gray-faced and obviously unwell, and he barked, "You are about to go through immigration. You people need to have your passports in your hand right now." And he shook his head like we were committing a major offense. I looked at the hundreds of people in line ahead of us, and I didn't say it out loud, but I thought, we'll be waiting at least half an hour. Get over yourself, buddy. That guy is just like the leader of the synagogue. They're both people with a tiny bit of authority. They want to puff themselves up, to seem important, and to get attention. Jesus stops at the synagogue on his way to Jerusalem. He's a teacher and healer with quite a reputation. Most leaders of synagogues would be honored to have him visit and would go out of their way to be gracious hosts. Not this guy. His desire to be important makes him resent the attention Jesus is getting. So when Jesus heals a woman, the synagogue leader kicks up a fuss. You shouldn't be healing on the Sabbath. You people need to come the other 6 days to be healed. Nobody else thinks the law prohibits healing on the Sabbath, only this guy. Jesus tells him to get over himself. You water your animals on the Sabbath, right? So how is it wrong to heal this woman today? Meeting Jesus could have transformed the synagogue leader, but instead, he spends his precious time with Jesus on a ridiculous argument. God is right there in front of him, yet this man's desire to gratify his ego leads him away from God. This guy's disordered desire for attention still gets us all these years later. When we read this story at last Wednesday's Bible study, we all focused at first on the leader of the synagogue, rather than the bent-over woman. She's the figure who really deserves our attention. The last time this story came up in our cycle of Bible readings, a doctor in my former church told me she's got osteoporosis of the spine. The sudden onset and the hunching over are classic symptoms of a vertebra that has lost so much bone mass it has collapsed. A member of my family lives with spinal osteoporosis, and if you have to sum up this condition in one word, it is pain. My relative is lucky, if you can call it luck, that she can lie down and sit without pain, but standing for even a minute is excruciating. Medications treat the bone loss, physical therapy helps, and prescription pain relievers when it gets especially bad, but the pain will never completely go away. And there's so much my relative can't do anymore because her back hurts. So we can imagine how it was for this woman 2,000 years ago, before physical therapy, with no way of preventing bone loss, and only herbs for pain relief. Her spine has continued to collapse. She's been in constant, agonizing pain for 18 years. She can't concentrate on anything, can barely smile or laugh because her back always hurts. Walking takes so much out of her that she barely leaves the house. Loved ones come to visit and she finds no joy in their presence. What does this woman want? For the pain to leave her. The deepest desire of her heart and spirit is for healing. That desire leads her to notice when a neighbor mentions that a famous healer is coming through town. It leads her to haul herself out of bed, fight the pain of combing her hair and getting dressed, and haltingly, carefully, with her grown children holding her up, to walk over to the synagogue for the first time in years and years. She finally makes it there, and Jesus sees her and calls out to her. She slowly makes her way through the crowd over to him. She's supposed to kneel or bow or something to show respect, but her back is on fire, and she just stands in front of Jesus, bent over. He says, "Woman, you have been set free from your ailment." And he places his hands on her shoulders. Energy that is both cool and warm at once pours into her, and she can feel her spine straightening and her head lifting. She looks full into someone's face for the first time in 18 years and sees Jesus, his dark eyes alit with warmth and good humor. Somehow she knows that this man is God in human flesh. Who else could have healed her like this? She begins to shout praise to God. Her body is healed, and her heart and mind and spirit too. As much as she wanted healing, God wanted her to be healed. Her desire, her holy, healthy desire, has led her to God. I think this woman knew what she wanted because the constant pain had lowered her defenses. She didn't have energy for pretense or for being frivolous. You don't care about a custom kitchen when you're hurting like that. But we don't have to be in pain to identify our deepest desires. Erin, a woman I met when she was in her mid-20s, began coming to church with her fiance Dan because he was Episcopalian and he wanted to be married in church. Several months after I did their wedding, Erin asked to be baptized. This was an uncommon choice for a young adult in Silicon Valley, which is an aggressively secular part of the world. So I asked Erin what was drawing her to baptism. She told me she didn't know many people of faith, really only Dan and her stepmother, who I think was Catholic, but she'd noticed something. Little things and even big things didn't rock Dan or her stepmom. They both had this peace, this calm center that kept them grounded. Erin saw that it came from their Christian faith. And she said, "I want what they have." I can still hear her saying that. I want what they have. The deepest desire of Erin's heart and spirit was for a peaceful, calm center. That desire led her to God, who was moving towards her with the gift of peace. God met Erin with joy in baptism because the deepest desire of God's heart is to be with us. I love the Jesuits' theology of desire because it is about both our desire for God and God's desire for us. The leader of the synagogue wasn't the only one who lost out when his ego led him away from Jesus. Jesus lost out too. He never got to be the leader's friend, never got to find out what the leader might have brought to Jesus' life. When we are honest about our deep desires, as the bent-over woman was, as Aaron was, and those desires lead us to God, God's deep desires are fulfilled just as much as ours are. So what do you want? What is the deepest desire of your heart and spirit? How does God, who loves you unconditionally, desire to be with you?